Hello YouTube, this is Keith Kevin Kent. How you doing? I hope you're doing well. This video is about just one question. What was your first Spyderco knife? I asked that question on my Instagram, and what you see in front of you is a sample of some of the knives that people talked about. None of them talked about the knife that I recommend, and the 4 knives that started me on my Spyderco journey. The 5th knife was my first $100 knife, and that was for the original Techno. First time I ever spent $100 on a knife. I looked at $100 and was like, why would you spend that? And I did it, and then of course, yeah, I caught the knife collecting fever, and check out this channel to see how crazy I went. But here are some of the knives people talked about, and they really are the foundation of Spyderco for the most point. For the most part, of course, it's the Manix, the Delica, the Endura, the new Indela, the knife between the small Delica and the large Endura, exactly between, that's the Indela. The Native, which has been around for a long time. The Para 3. Now I know a lot of people, their first knife is the Paramilitary 2. The Para 3 is part of that family, but the Para 2, I just sold all of mine. I've had a lot of them and sold them all. Of course, 2 new ones that have come up is the Little Native and the Shaman, one of my favorites. There are so many different Shamans. There are a number of videos on this channel talking about all of these knives and all of the other knives that I sold around these knives. Each of these knives, I probably had, I don't know, 25, 35 variations of each of these knives. But that's not my first. My first was a value folder. And this is a value folder that people don't talk about much. It's the Chicago 2-inch blade. This has 440C steel. It's a small blade because, of course, Chicago's laws required that it be under 3 inches. That was one of my first ones. So was the Ambitious 2.3-inch blade. Of course, mine was black G10. This is blue G10. I like smaller knives, and I love these because they are so inexpensive. I have a huge collection of value folders, huge. I think there's 30 or 35 value folders, and you never see me selling them because they're so inexpensive. You know, after I paid all the fees and mailing, I'd probably get 50 cents for them, but they're very important to me. Here's another one people don't talk about. This comes after the Ambitious. This is a 2.5-inch blade. It's called the Cat. Now, I know a lot of you have seen a lot of value folders, even some of the newer ones. We'll talk a little bit about those later. These are all older so far. The Persistence at 2.7 inches. I really like this because it's just under the 3 inches. Remember, when I bought these knives, they were $35, $40. I mean, that's inexpensive when you talk about Spyderco. But it gets you, for someone who just learned about this thing called Spyderco with holes in their blades, and you use that to open them, literally, I just wanted to try them out, and boy, I shed a lot of blood literally with my first knives. I just kept cutting myself accidentally. The persistence at 2.7 inch. This right here is the efficient at 3 inches. Later, this is one of the newer, whoops, try to get it on the table. This is one of the newer knives. And what they did was they took the efficient at a 3-inch blade and then they cut it down to a 2.5-inch blade and called it the insistent. Again, these are value folders. Inexpensive Spyderco knives that I would recommend. Christmas is coming up in a couple of months. Perfect for Christmas gifts. Inexpensive, but for most people, a $40, $35 knife is not inexpensive, believe it or not. Us knife folks think it is. But it's a perfect thing if you have kids, if you have someone who just wants a knife to mess around with, or has heard about a Spyderco but never had one before. The Tenacious was always my favorite knife. The Tenacious comes in at 3.4 inches. Spyderco started spending a lot of time. All of these started with liners and black G10 handles. Almost all of them are liner locks as well. Spyderco started to really upgrade the efficient. There's about 6 or 7 different colors, black blades, combo blades, serrated blades. This is actually carbon fiber on a value folder. Again, Spyderco starting now, I've seen some, I've been out of the buying of knife game for a while now. Now I've been seeing some value folders. Yeah, because now there are some value folders with an S35 VN steel. Great steel. I love it as an all-around steel. But it makes that knife a little pricey. In fact, some of those newer ones start to get in the Delica Indora range. And I would recommend to anyone who's looking for their first knife or maybe their second knife that that's where you go. You go Delica if you like smaller knives, Indora if you like them big, and of course Indela, a new edition if you want one in between the two. But let's talk about real value folders. Here's the Resilience. For a long time, I think still is the biggest of the value folders. 4.2 inch blade. Let's see, where can we put this thing? It's been so long. You guys, I seem awkward when I go to the desktop, and that's because I'm reaching around a camera and tripod. I used to reach around it a lot faster before I got so old. And then they came up with newer knives as well. Here's the Emphasis 3.6 inch blade. You can see, unlike the others, it's rounded off. It's rounded off. Is that the Emphasis? Yeah. And then the start of the new value folders, they really aren't much of a value. But they look nice. I was so happy to see a newer knife like the Astute. 3 inches thinner than usual. Still with liner. Still a liner lock. But just a nicer profile. for me, that was one of the newer ones when I was buying. And then this right here is the Polestar. And this, I think, is the beginning of Spyderco looking at upgrading their value folders and bringing them more in line with the Delicas and Enduras. The Polestar, with its 3.3-inch blade, but instead of the blade steel that most of these other ones have, you know, they've had it for so long, coming from China, 8CR13 MOV steel. The Polestar came out with CTS BD1N steel, a little better steel. In fact, that steel has been on some of the knives that I talked about at the beginning. On the Para 3, in fact, that Para 3 has that steel on it. You see it on the Manix too. You see it in a lot of different steel, a lot of different Spyderco knives. So, tell me, please, in the comments, I'm back. Tell me your first Spyderco knife and tell me why. Tell me why it was your first. Was it because you saw it somewhere, because a friend had it, because you wanted a knife that would last you forever? Is it the locking? Is it the lock? Why don't you give me a chance to listen to you for once? That's it. That's the first knife. Mine, all value folders. Yeah, until I reached deep in my pocket back then and got a Techno for over $100, and then I just went crazy. That's it for the video. Hey, listen, I'm going to be coming back to you more often. We're going to talk about ink pens and everything. I have 2.5 months to sell a lot of stuff out of my apartment and to move after 20 years. My goal was to do eBay for the next 2.5 months, just selling all the crazy collections of stuff that I have. And then I looked it up and I found out that when you're a new seller, they cap you at $500 per month. So that's not good. So I've been looking at other places to sell my stuff. But what I think is fun, and you'll start seeing some of these videos on this channel, still knife, still EDC stuff, a lot of EDC stuff, but also you'll see, I think it's fun. You'll see a lot of the toys that I collected and a lot of other things that I have collected, whether it's coins or ink pens or, a lot of Apple stuff. Yeah. If you think I'm a Spyderco fanatic, wait till you see all the Apple boxes that I have. So it should be a fun channel. We'll do the knife and EDC stuff once a week. We'll also do a lot of the other what's in your house that you're getting ready to sell stuff. I think it'll be fun. Hey, I dug up stuff I haven't seen in 15 or 20 years that I think is cool. So I think that should at least be fun for you guys. That's it. I'm wishing all of you the best. I will not take another hiatus, I promise you. In fact, I'm going to use this channel to motivate me to dig up all this stuff and get ready for my move. Get ready. It's going to be fun. I appreciate all of you. I really do. And I hope there's so much going on, a lot of layoffs, etc. I hope that I'm finding you well and your family well and wishing you, of course, the best. You take good care of yourself, okay? Goodbye.